So hello, everybody. Welcome to the webinar, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging webinar. This is a series. This is the Capital One and Out and Equal Workplace Advocates Practitioners for Change virtual learning series. I am doing a series of 5 different webinars. So that's on a different slide, but first I'm going to introduce myself. But we're going to be focused today on strengthening emotional intelligence. That's going to be the topic for today. And we are together until the end of the hour. So we'll be with each other for 1 hour. It's just a little bit more about me for the people who don't know me, who weren't at the last webinar and haven't met me before. My name is Xander Kegg. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Florida. I'm 55 years old. I'll be 56 in a couple of months. I'm married. My wife and I are going to be celebrating our 20th anniversary in August. We're going to take a cruise to Alaska. It'll be my first cruise ever. I've never been on a cruise ship. I'm also first generation American. My family's Mexican, from Mexico. And I'm a veteran of the U.S. Coast Guard. I serve on the Transgender American Veterans Association Board of Directors. I served from 2015 to 2020. And then I took 2 years off and I came back in 2022. I'm back on the board now. In that interim period of time, of course, there was COVID, and also my father developed dementia and I needed to become his caregiver. And so I took a little bit of a break from that. Again, you can see I'm a Florida licensed clinical social worker. I've had a very successful social work career. I'm very proud of that. I'm very happy. Yeah, so a little bit more about me, just so you know who the heck is talking to you. I had just got a message that somebody here took a cruise to Alaska last August. It was amazing, fantastic. That's exactly where I'm going in August too. So I'm really looking forward to that. Thanks for that feedback. Glad you had a great time. I think we will too. It sounds amazing. So this is the Practitioner Wellbeing series. Wellbeing is another way to say wellness, right? So I focus on emotional wellness and mental fitness. Last month was the first in the series, and we focused on trauma-informed care. And we spoke about how bringing awareness of what trauma is and how it impacts people into our workplaces can actually improve the conditions in our working environments for everybody. It can lower our stress levels. It can induce more collaboration. It can encourage empowerment. Today, we're going to be talking about strengthening emotional intelligence. And so we'll be discussing what EQ is, right? Emotional intelligence, abbreviated to EQ. We're going to be talking about self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. But because this is a well-being or a wellness webinar, I always like to start with a well-being or wellness activity. So we're going to do a breathing exercise. I think we did that last time. I really like breathing exercises. One of the reasons is because it's quick. It's simple. You can do it almost everywhere, and you can feel very centered or grounded or calm, whatever the feeling is you get from it, pretty easily and pretty quickly. Oh, I'm getting another private message. So just to let everybody know, they can send me private messages by clicking that little down arrow next to the word everyone and just send it to host and panelists. So I'm getting a private message that somebody worked with the Coast Guard and their significant other was in the reserve. So coasties all the way. Very cool. So let's go ahead and do our breathing exercise. What you're going to see is an animated GIF on the screen. This is going to help us pay attention to our breathing. And what you're going to see is the circle is getting bigger and holding, and then getting smaller and then holding. And what we're doing is we're breathing in, holding our breath, and then we're breathing out as it's getting smaller, and then we're holding our breath again as it stays small. So let's all take a breath in and hold it and breathe out and hold it. And I'll do this, just do it in silence now. Let's do it one more time. I'd love to know how that was for you. How does that experience just take a few moments out of our time to just collect ourselves, be focused and attentive to our breath. Just love to see in the chat box how you're feeling now. Grounded, centered, nice, much needed, good. Yeah, this is, you can go to that website right there that you see, quietkit.com, and you can, you'll see this image on there, and you can grab it up and put it, you can bookmark it, so you can use this anytime you want to. Quietkit.com. Oh, here, let me, I have a link for you, actually. I'll put it in there. I will put it in the chat box for you. There you go. Now you have it. All right. So let's talk a little bit about what emotional intelligence is. And what I want to let you know also is that I'm going to present a few slides, and I'm going to talk a little bit with each slide, and then you're going to go into breakout rooms. And what you're going to do is you're going to go into breakout rooms with maybe 2-3 people, no more than that, right? No more than 4 people. So depends on how many people we have total. So I don't want any fewer than 2, obviously, because it's a conversation, but no more than 4, because I want you to be able to take full advantage of the 5 minutes you're going to have a really robust conversation. And you can't do that if there's too many people in that. So that'll be coming up shortly, just to let you know. So emotional intelligence, or EQ, right? Which, if you know about IQ, right, the intelligent quotient, right, which is our mental ability, right? So according to Mensa, right, it measures our mental ability, but EQ is our emotional intelligence, right? It's our ability to understand, use, and manage our own emotions in positive ways, our ability to relieve stress, our ability to communicate effectively, our ability to empathize with others, our ability to overcome challenges, and also our ability to diffuse conflict, right? So that's what emotional intelligence is. Emotional intelligence has what are considered the 4 core attributes, or you'll see on that little picture there, they refer to it as the 4 core skills. Either way, people use different languaging, but they're the same, right? Self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, and relationship management. So let me tell you a little bit more about each of those. So self-management is the ability to control impulsive feelings and behaviors, right? The ability to manage emotions in healthy ways, to the ability to take initiative, right? The ability to follow through on our commitments, and our ability to adapt to changing circumstances, right? That is self-management. Self-awareness is our ability to recognize our emotions and how they affect how we think about things and how we act or how we behave. It's also about knowing what our strengths and our weaknesses are, and it's also about having self-confidence, right? Having confidence in ourselves. And then social awareness is about being empathetic. It's about understanding the emotions the emotions and needs and concerns of other people, right? So you have self-awareness. Social awareness is being empathetic towards other people, right? What are their emotions? What are their needs? What are their concerns? It's picking up on their emotional cues. It's also feeling comfortable being in social settings, and recognizing the power dynamics that exist within a group or within an organization. Of course, this is going to be very culturally different and contextually different. And I know for myself, I have ADHD, and so I have some uniqueness around social awareness, and many people do. But basically, that's what it means. But we're all going to have a slightly different way in which we are aware socially. And then relationship management is focused mostly on developing and maintaining good relationships, be it friends, romance, workplace, right? Different types of relationships, communicating clearly, right? Asking for what we need, being concise with our words, not using a lot of words that people don't understand what we're saying, making sure that we're tailoring what we're saying to the audience in which we're speaking, so that we're not using words or phrases or talking in some sort of code and other people don't understand what we're saying because we're using maybe jargon from our job or a particular vernacular from a culture, right? So when we're talking cross-culturally, just being aware of that. Relationship management also has to do with being able to inspire and influence other people, and also being able to work well in a team and managing conflict, right? Being able to manage conflict, because there's Whenever you are with one other person or more, inevitably there will be some kind of conflict. Typically it's minor. Many times nobody's even really talking about it, right? But you might feel it, you might experience it, it might come to your consciousness. And so we've learned how to manage these kinds of conflicts, but sometimes the conflict can grow. And that's where this self-management piece comes in, right? It's our ability to control the impulsive feelings and behaviors and thoughts that generate within us almost automatically when we're in a conflictual relationship or conflictual dialogue with other people. So those are the 4 core attributes for, hold on, something came through the chat box. I want to make sure I'm understanding what it is. Oh, so we're not going to be able to go into breakout rooms, but people will be able to do a reflection on their own time, have them share in the chat. Okay, so the way it was set up, I apologize everybody, the way there's many different Zoom formats, and they're forever changing what's available and what's not available in formats. So I guess in this particular format, we're not going to be able to go into a breakout room, but we will be able to utilize the chat box. And so I will, I'll be able to, track what people are saying as best as I can. Those things go by pretty quickly, especially when there are almost 80 people in the room. So come back to the next one and we will go into breakout rooms. So emotional intelligence, or EQ, affects us in many, many ways. So these are just some of the ways it affects us. It affects our performance at school and work. It affects our physical health, our mental health, our relationships, and also our social intelligence, or SQ. We're not going to really talk about social intelligence or SQ too much, but it's a completely, so we have IQ, EQ, and SQ. I've actually heard SQ also used as spiritual intelligence, but social intelligence is typically what people mean when they use SQ. So when we talk about how emotional intelligence affects us in our performance in school or work, what we're meaning is that high emotional intelligence can help us navigate social complexities of the workplace, so that we're able to better lead and motivate others. We have the ability to excel in our career. Oftentimes people use EQ as a gauge for job candidates. You may have even taken some sort of assessment during the hiring process that may have been trying to figure out what your EQ was. They use it quite often now in hiring in a lot of different places, because what they're looking for is compatibility among teams and departments and divisions. EQ impacts your physical health, and a lot of people might think, well, that's really interesting. Oh, cool, somebody's saying they've heard of CQ, cultural intelligence. Very cool. I'm going to look that up. Thanks for mentioning that. Let me write it down. I haven't heard of that. So how is our physical health affected by our emotional intelligence? Well, if we're unable to manage our emotions, right, and that means we're probably also not managing our stress. And stress can lead to serious health problems, right? It can lead to stress and strain in our lives, but also in our physical bodies through tension, tightness, tingling, pain, numbness, right? And so uncontrolled stress raises our blood pressure. It suppresses our immune system. It increases the risk of heart attacks and strokes, and also contributes to infertility, and it speeds up our aging process. So stress is clearly not a good thing when it's overdone. A little bit of stress is really good. We need a little bit of stress in our lives. It's good for motivation and for also a little bit of stress on our bodies, because it keeps our bones strong and our muscles strong. But too much stress physically, emotionally, mentally, socially is going to not be good for our health. EQ also affects our mental health. If we have uncontrolled emotions, because our stress isn't being managed, then it can impact our mental health. And so it makes us more vulnerable to anxiety and depression. If we're unable to understand or get comfortable with or even manage our emotions, then we might have a struggle within our relationships because we're not able to get along with people, either professionally or personally, romantically, right? We're having trouble with our relationships. And it can often leave us feeling lonely, isolated, which then just makes mental health issues even worse if we're isolated and feeling lonely, cut off from other people. EQ can affect our relationships because by understanding our emotions and how we can control them, right, through that self-management, we're better able to express how we feel and understand how other people are feeling, right? And that's really important in a relationship, that empathy piece, self-awareness for myself, empathy for the other person or people, right? So this allows us to communicate more effectively, forge stronger relationships with the people in our life, both at work and in our personal lives. And then how EQ affects our social intelligence is related to it's part of that social awareness piece, right? Being in tune with our emotions serves the social purpose because then it helps us better connect with other people in the world around us. It enables us to recognize who's a friend, who's a foe, measure another person's interest in us, whether that's socially or romantically, can reduce stress, right? Because if we're able to be in tune with other people, we're probably going to have less stress in our lives, right? Research shows that, for men in particular who live the longest, typically they're married men. It's because they're in relationship, right? Single men don't tend to live as long as married men. So part of the reasoning for that is that stress reduction of being in a relationship and having that person that you can go to and talk to, right? And so that's one example of how that stress, right? It also helps us balance our nervous system, right? When we're communicating with other people, we're building rapport, we're feeling good. We might even be having, laughter, right? That's going to release happy hormones into our body. We might feel, loved by another person, connected to them, right? So this is how our emotional intelligence affects all those things, because the lower our emotional intelligence is, the harder it's going to be. We're going to struggle more in our relationships, in our social encounters, and then that could lead to the loneliness and the isolation, which would affect our mental health. And then all that stress is going to impact our physical health. And then that's going to impact our ability to function and perform in the workplace and at school. Hold on a second, I'm getting another. I want to make sure I'm not missing any chats. Okay. Somebody said they're going to be leaving early. Sorry, I did mention I have ADHD, so when I see chats come by, it takes me totally off of what I'm doing. So I apologize for that. It's hard for me to do these two things at once. So how do we strengthen emotional intelligence, right? I talked about what emotional intelligence is, but how do we actually strengthen it? Well, through practice, right? Practice does not make perfect. I don't think there's any such thing as perfection when it comes to practically anything, right? But we can get better and better and better at something the more we do it, right? So practice makes progress. So for example, with the self-awareness piece, right? Self-aware people know how they feel. They know how their emotions and their actions affect themselves and the people around them, right? So when we are more attentive to ourselves and how we're interacting in the world, and then how that impacts other people, right? The more we practice being self-aware, the better our interactions will be in the world with people, our experiences of the world in particular. With self-regulation, particularly around emotions, right? So individuals who regulate themselves effectively rarely verbally attack other people or make rushed or emotional decisions, or stereotype people, right? That's something that's sort of a quick knee-jerk thing to do, to stereotype someone. When we're self-regulated in our emotions, we're able to distance ourselves from our emotion, namely by giving it a name. Research shows if we can name our emotions, if we can get really granular on exactly how we're feeling, That gives us an opportunity to distance from it a bit cognitively or mentally. And then we can respond to how we're feeling rather than react to it. You can go to a website called feelingswheel.com and you can see how there's all these emotions and feelings. And if the more granular you can get, you'll see how it branches out and it gets very, very granular. Self-regulation is basically all about staying in control. Controlling your actions, controlling your thoughts, controlling your emotions. Again, this is not something you could just flip a switch to do. It takes practice over the entire lifetime. So you won't become, perfect at it, probably ever. None of us will, but we're going to practice it. Yeah, totally. Brene Brown. I love her work. Another social worker. So as far as, let's say, take motivation, right? As far as a practice tool, it's part of emotional intelligence. Self-motivated individuals work consistently toward their goals, right? They have extremely high standards for the quality of work. So the more motivated we are, the better we're going to perform in our workplaces, in our lives, in whatever ways. If you're involved in athletics or craft activities or whatever it is, right? The more you practice, the better you get at it, the more motivated you are going to be to do it even more and more. Empathy, right? How, what happens, with this idea of practicing empathy, right? So having empathy is critical. It's really considered to be the most critical piece of emotional intelligence, especially if you're managing a team. That could be a team at work, a team, a sports team, a volunteer team. You can think of your family as a team, perhaps, that you're trying to manage, right? So this can be interpersonal or organizational. So individuals who have empathy towards other people, they have the ability to put themselves right in those other people's situations. And it helps you then develop a sense of being part of that person's experience and they're part of yours. And so that doesn't mean that, if somebody is having a really, really difficult time, you kind of jump in and get all in the mud with them. Talking about Brene Brown, there's a really great little cartoon about the difference between empathy and sympathy. And so empathy is just being able to recognize that you've had experiences in your life that have led you to have a similar kind of feeling. It doesn't have to be the same experience. Maybe the person is sad. I mean, who hasn't been sad, right? So the ability for us to recall, oh yeah, I've been sad. I remember what sad felt like. And, what did I need when I was sad? And then be able to provide that to the other person, which is typically a listening ear, right? A listening ear. So that empathy is really important. That's probably the key component of emotional intelligence. It's that ability to tap into our own experiences that are similar to what other people are going through. It doesn't mean we commiserate with them. We don't judge them. We don't give them advice, right? That's a whole different set of tools and strategies that people use typically when they're asked for it, right? It's not something that we want to just start giving advice to people, right? Unless they really want to hear that. With empathy, right, it can also help us when we're giving feedback to people, right? Whether it's in our personal lives and our work lives, when we want to give constructive feedback to somebody, knowing what it feels like to have harsh criticism, right, turn towards us. It doesn't feel good. So it reminds us not to do that to other people. And then to just listen, right? Empathy, a lot of empathy is about listening. And listening not just to what we're hearing, but listening under the words, right? Listening under the words to what's really going on with a person. And then the final component of emotional intelligence that we can focus on strengthening are social skills, right? So when we do well in our social skills, we're going to be better communicators, right? And so the ability to effectively communicate is really important. And that's going to be different when there is a sense in which we have to change a little bit. Sorry, chat came through. We have to be attentive to the context that we're in. And so we have to be able to, can people not hear me? Is there an issue with audio? Is that what I'm hearing? Can people not hear me? Q, can you hear me? Okay. Okay, people can hear me. Something went wrong with that person's audio. Hopefully they can get that back online. Sorry about that. So we have to be aware of our setting, right, of the context. So we're going to talk to our children differently than our spouse. We're going to talk to our work colleague different from, you know, the barista at the coffee house. We're going to talk differently, not in any demonstrative way that's like this group of people are better than this group of people. It's not like that. It's more maybe just it's changing the words we're using, right? It's changing the tone of our voice. It's changing, right? Because we're trying to establish rapport and build trust with people. And so part of that is meeting people where they are, right? And being able to, I want to see what that chat is because people are liking it. A lot of people only listen to respond. That's right. Yeah, when I do a training on effective communication, I really emphasize how important listening is and not just waiting until it's your turn. That's hearing people, that's not listening. So thanks for re-emphasizing that point. I love that. So the more proficient we are being able to manage our emotions and our behaviors, right, as we bring that into our workplace, into our families, when conflicts inevitably arise, because they always will, we will never be conflict free, right? There will always be conflicts, from mild to pretty severe conflicts, right, in our world, like we're dealing with now. We can't ignore those things. We can't, I mean, we could try. We can maybe take breaks from them. We can compartmentalize when we need to. We can pick and choose where and when we might want to bring something up. That's a part of social skills. That's part of that social awareness, right? If you have something really important to say to somebody, but they're having a really bad day, it's probably not the right time to bring it up. So maybe the next day, right? But we don't want to wait too long or else we build up resentment. So we want to be careful not to do that, right? So we don't want to sit back and just let things happen. We want to work towards change in our personal lives, our professional lives, our society's level. But we have to also know that what we can do is make sure that we're not getting hijacked by those emotions that we might be feeling as a result of something we've seen, we've heard, we've witnessed, we've experienced, right? That's not to say that you might not be impacted by it, but getting hijacked by it is only going to add to the stress. And the more stress you have, right, the more problems you're going to have. So it's going to be counterproductive, right? So things are happening all around us. We don't want them to be the way they are. Some people might say the best solution for that in the moment is radical acceptance. That doesn't mean you like it, doesn't mean you agree with it, it doesn't mean you are going to let it continue to happen. But in the moment, getting really, really filled with rage is only doing damage to you, to your mind, to your body, right? To your spirit, to your relationships, everything. So taking that pause, right? Getting really granular, naming what you're feeling, getting a little bit of distance from it, and being able to come up with what do you want to do about it? How are you going to go about it, right? In a way that is not damaging to your own self or other people. So we were going to go into breakout rooms. We're not going to be able to do that. We will use the chat box. But I wanted to, even though we're going to use the chat box, I still want us to be attentive to these breakout discussion agreements, because it's really important that what we do is we respect that everybody in this room has different opinions and thoughts about things, all things. We don't all agree with each other. I like to say we're not a monolith. We're definitely not, right? We're all able to take responsibility for our own learning, right? We can look things up, we can ask questions as long as they're respectful. Not everybody wants to answer those questions though, so we have to take responsibility to get our own learning done on our own time. Our agreement is that we're open, right? We're open to considering alternative thoughts and ideas and opinions and behaviors of other people. The ask is that people actively participate during the discussion. So for today, that will be through chat, and we'll get that fixed, and we'll be in breakout rooms next time. And to really listen, right? So in this case, we're listening by reading, right? So it's going to be more of a visual learning experience. And for some people, that's going to be a challenge. I know it is for me. I'm a kinesthetic learner, and I don't glean much from the written word. I have to read things like 12 times in order to really comprehend. And so other people might be having that same issue and things might be going by rather quickly, right? That's very different from being 2, 3, or 4 people in a breakout room and having a conversation. So I want to acknowledge that. Please do ask questions. And people may or may not answer, but please do ask them. And also have a high level of sensitivity to the feelings of others. That's that empathy piece, right? High sensitivity. Again, respect, because we're not all going to be agreeing with each other, but also being attentive, right? Being attentive and attuned to other people. And I ask that you keep the highest level of confidentiality and privacy. So you can surely repeat what I've talked about today. You can even repeat maybe things that have come by in the chat box, but please don't attribute those things to any particular person and where they work or where they live, right? Because we were saying where we're living. And so just keep it very, very topic specific if you want to share something outside of the room. So let me go to the slide where we're going to talk about what is the discussion topic. So the discussion topic is what I wanted people to be able to discuss, and so we're going to do our best to do this in the chat box, is how we respond to overwhelm in our lives, right? So in order for you to engage your emotional intelligence, right, your EQ, you have to be able to be aware of how to use your emotions to make constructive decisions, right, about how to behave. And when we become overly stressed, we lose control of our emotions. We lose the ability to act thoughtfully and act appropriately for the situation, right? So what I was wanting you to do is think about, so I'll give you some time to think about a time when stress has overwhelmed you, right? A time when stress has overwhelmed you. For some of you, that might be right now, right? Think about a time when stress has overwhelmed you. Was it easy for you to think clearly and make rational decisions when you were in that overwhelmed, experience, right? Were you able to make, rational and have clear thinking, right? So yeah, so I'm seeing people are becoming, they're sensitive and reactive, get snitty, yeah, right? So short with people, lash out, yeah, shut down and withdraw, absolutely, right? Because our whole system is being overwhelmed, right? And you might even feel like your heart starts to race. Maybe your breathing becomes shallow. Maybe you start to perspire, right? You start to sweat. Maybe you start to feel like your face is getting red, right? Our whole system gets overloaded. We have this part of our brain, right? People call it the lizard brain or the limbic system or the threat detection system. That little part of our brain gets a little trigger and it sends this like danger, danger, danger. And our body goes through this physiological process of shutting down and turning certain things on and turning certain things off. So we really, really get into a stress response. Good news is we can break that process. We can do it by doing those breathing exercises. But that requires that we're thinking clearly and rationally. And the only way for us to do that is to practice it when we're not in a stressful situation. That's why a lot of times people will do centering prayer or mindfulness meditation, because they're training themselves to calm down so that when something happens in our lives, something extraordinary happens, and we have a crisis or stress response to it, we can more easily recall how to calm ourselves down. It's not going to feel natural, right? It's not going to feel natural at all. Absolutely self-soothing. There you go. Right. So our ability to think clearly and assess our emotions becomes compromised when we're really stressed, right? So my question for you then is, what would it look like to receive upsetting information without letting it override your thoughts? And to make choices that allow you to control impulsive feelings and your behaviors, manage your emotions in healthy ways, take initiative, follow through. Like, what would it look like to you? What would it look like for you in your particular context? What would it look like for you to receive upsetting information without letting it override your thoughts and your emotions? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that being, yeah, communicate. So when it's coming up, you're communicating with people. Absolutely challenging your intrusive thoughts. Absolutely. For people who have ever been to a cognitive behavioral therapist, that's exactly what they do. It's exactly what they do. Just because a thought enters our mind doesn't mean we have to agree with it, believe it. We can argue with it if we want. Stay present, and not withdraw. Absolutely. Right. Because that's going to be the natural instinct. And so we really do have to override our instincts here. It's not that easy to do. See, hear, and listen. Focus on being present. Slow down. Yeah. But what's going to happen is your heart rate's going to speed up. Your blood's going to be rushing through your body. You're going to have racing thoughts, right? So the ability to tap into what it feels like to slow down, we have to know what that feels like. So we can do, again, breathing exercises, stress management techniques like progressive muscle relaxation, right? That's where you tighten and you hold muscle groups in your body, and then you release it, and you can like go from your head to your toes to your head, or go back and forth a number of times, right? So that's, there are lots of things that we can do. Visualization exercises, guided imagery. Yep, remain present, mindful, continuing to engage. Yeah, from a place of calm, right? Which might initially feel like you're gritting your teeth or biting your tongue. It might feel completely unnatural because, well, shouldn't I be able to say whatever I want, wherever I want, to whomever I want, right? There's a sense in which, we want to express ourselves, but it can damage our relationships, and that's just the truth of it. Have an internal positive dialogue. Absolutely. Taking practice is definite. Seek to understand. Great. Yeah. Seek to understand other people. If I've missed your comments, just repost them because they're going by so quickly for me. Do some deep breathing, pause. Somebody's saying they tend to go into analytical mode. Yeah, being present. For people who have ever been to a dialectical behavioral therapist or DBT therapist, they might have worked with you on mindfulness practices and talked to you about this thing called the wise mind. We have the emotional mind, the rational mind, and they overlap, right? That little Venn diagram, and the wise mind is the combination of those two things. So that's that. For people who go automatically into rationality and analytics, or they go into emotions and reactionary, it's trying to bring ourselves to the middle of that. Take something off the list, lighten the load. Yep. Step away, take the pause button. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm like, wait, what? Ignore that last chat. I was like, what did I didn't do that. Thanks, Sarah. Someone said anonymously, I think it would feel like I wasn't being true to myself if they try to control their reaction. Yeah, it might feel that way at first. But there are many, many different ways for us to be in the world, right? To stay true to ourselves. Staying true to ourselves means that we don't accept when bad things are happening to us or terrible things are happening around us. But what we can do is we can take a pause on how that impacts us physically, mentally. If it's disrupting your sleep, if it's disrupting your appetite, if it's disrupting your relationships, that true to yourself is being damaging, right? It's not bringing you what you probably want, which is things to change in a positive way. It usually makes things worse. So I get it, but the great thing is that we have the ability to rationalize with our own emotions. We don't have to just accept them. We can accept that we feel sad, But at the same time, we can't like go to work and sit there all day long crying, right? We have to be able to compartmentalize a little bit so that we can function. We either take the day off, or we take an extended break, or right, we have to be able to manage, you know, when and where and how our emotions are going to come out in our lives. Otherwise, it's going to be really difficult for other people to be able to be around us. That's really hard for other people when people are constantly coming from an emotional place. It's a very difficult type of relationship to navigate. Somebody's saying at times I need to think. When doing this, I've made people feel like I'm trying to get back at them with my silence. Yeah, that's interesting. People feel uncomfortable with silence. People often feel uncomfortable with silence. They like to fill it with their words and with their behaviors. That's why I really love meditation, because meditation teaches us to be able to be comfortable being still and quiet, right? Because it's when we're being still and quiet that we can, as you said, we can reflect, right? We can think about, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? Have I felt this way before? What happened that last time or those other times I felt this way? What did I do then? Can I do things differently now? Right? We have the ability to think those things through. Not dwelling on the matter and being able to sleep comfortably. Absolutely. Right? Because I don't know if I'm talking about it during this series, but I do lead sleep webinars for another company. And it's a super important part of our health is sleep. Not getting enough sleep, being dysregulated in our sleep, means that our circadian rhythm, circadian clock in our body is dysregulated. And when our circadian rhythm is dysregulated, so is our immune system, our digestive system, our appetite response system, our nervous system, our immune system, our endocrine system, right? So that dysregulates our mood. Our weight is dysregulated when we are dysregulated in our sleep. I could talk for hours and hours about sleep. If you want to know more about sleep, definitely I recommend a book called Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker. Why We Sleep. He leads the sleep lab at UC Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley out in California. Why We Sleep. Sleep is actually the most important component of emotional well-being and mental fitness. And most of us don't know very much about sleep. So anything else you want to add to how differently you think you might be able to feel, or how about what are some additional things that you feel like you can bring into your life? What are some things you can start doing that you haven't already been doing that can help you with this self-regulation and this self-awareness piece in particular? How do you think you can get more self-regulated and more self-aware? Be able to navigate distressful situations without having it completely throw you off balance, right? Because we have the ability to do that. We can learn how to navigate through distressful exchanges, distressful conversations, right? What are some of the ways that people use to navigate through those stressful or distressing times in their life? Journaling. Yeah. Yeah, journaling is really interesting because especially when you pick it up and you read it and it's months, even years or decades later, I always have a good laugh at that. I don't know what it's like for you. It's like, wow, I thought that, I did that, you know? It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, totally good reminder. Bring attention. Taking walks, yeah, reading, taking walks, letting it go. That's true. Like just because something has come up in the moment, that doesn't mean we have to handle it in the moment. We can compartmentalize, right? That's not denial. That's not suppression. That's not repression. It's compartmentalization, right? We can say, I can't deal with this right now. I'm going to put it on a shelf. I'm going to come back to it after work, tomorrow morning, right? We can do that. We can take care. That's part of self-care, being able to do that for ourselves. All right. Well, thank you everybody for all that. I'm gonna move on because I want to be able to let's see. Oh, people are using Q&A too. Oh boy, let me see. Let's see. Is there anything? Motions show in my eyes. Color changes. Interesting. Correct. Cry. Meditation. Going for a walk. Taking. Excellent. Thank you. I wasn't monitoring the Q&A. I was just looking at chat box. So, all right. So we're in the wrap up phase of the webinar. I would like to know, how was this experience for you? Right? To be able to hear what I presented, being able to interact in the chat box in particular. It'll be different when we do our breakout groups. Okay, so relaxing. Yeah, good. Love all the content. Was terrified when you said breakout rooms. Okay, so you're happy you didn't have to do that. So good. Worked for you. That's fantastic. It's good to know, right? Thank you very much. That's very generous and kind. I appreciate it. Appreciate teachings and feedback. Had breakout rooms. Yeah, we will do it. Otherwise, great. Okay. So some people like the chat and some people like the breakout. So that's good to know. Amazing reminders, great inspiration. Thank you. That's very kind. Appreciate that. Breakout rooms, said many things I already know. It's a great reminder. Great content. Looking forward to the rest of the series. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, and Q just put in a link where you can provide additional feedback. It's a survey, so please do. It's great. I get those afterwards. They're anonymous, so I don't know who it's coming from, but it's very helpful to get the constructive feedback so that I can put that into practice in the next webinar. I think the content's so wonderful. An hour's not enough time. Absolutely. I could do this all day long. I mean, I basically do. Want you to be my therapist. Oh boy, yeah. I am an LCSW, but I don't do psychotherapy anymore. But I mean, I know you're not meaning that literally, but yeah, it's always nice to be able to have a therapist that you can feel that you can connect with. So I appreciate that. Share the links and resources. Keep doing that. Fantastic. Thank you for the content. You betcha. You betcha. So people are going to still comment and we're collecting the chats, but I want to move on to talk a little bit about self-care, right? So people are familiar with this concept of self-care. Some people might even be sick and tired of hearing it because quite honestly, people tell us, our employers might tell us, our, people in our family might tell us, don't forget your self-care, but then don't really create an environment, culture, an opportunity for us to be able to do that, right? For us to be able to, and what does it even mean, right? And so, but I want to, in the last webinar, I talked a little bit about the difference between self-care and self-comforting or self-soothing, right? Self-comforting and self-soothing behaviors are things that we do that are just good for us in the moment and maybe for a period of time. Get a massage, take a bath, have some awesome froyo, something like that. Time out with your friends, glass of wine, whatever people are going to do. But self-care are activities that we are regularly participating in that have long-term health benefits, right? Like meditation, like exercise, like mindfulness activities, breathing activities. Well, sleep hygiene is one of those, right? Sleep hygiene is something you can pay attention to every day for the rest of your life, and it will pay in dividends as we get older and older. Sleep deprivation is now linked, right, causally to dementia, Alzheimer's, heart disease, all kinds of medical problems. I don't want to go through the whole list. It's too depressing, right? So sleep deprivation is something that most of us experience because we're not getting enough sleep, or we're getting irregular sleep. And so that's why I highly recommend the Why We Sleep book, right? So what is sleep hygiene? So really quickly, sleep hygiene is having both a bedroom environment and daily routines that promote consistent, uninterrupted sleep. Right? Uninterrupted sleep. So that means you might have to wear a mask to block out light. You might need to get a machine that makes pink noise, not white noise, pink noise. White noise is staticky sounding. Pink noise are nature sounds, right? That soothes your brain waves so that you can have more sound sleep. Keeping a stable sleep schedule. A lot of times people use a journal for this. They keep track of when they go to bed, when they wake up, they keep track of when they woke up, about how many hours of sleep they think they got, how they feel. And then they can track that over a period of week, 2 weeks, months, years, right? And keep track of that. We want to keep our bedrooms comfortable, free of disruptions. We want to have a good pre-bedtime routine, right? A lot of people have morning routines. Having a pre-bedtime routine is also helpful. Maybe about 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed, dim the lights in your house, right? As it's getting later and later in the evening, dim the lights, have as low a light as you can manage. And the reason for that is that when the lights dim, your optic nerve registers that and starts putting melatonin into your body. And melatonin is one of the chemicals in our body that makes us sleepy, right? Sleep is a biochemical response. When you wake up in the morning, your body starts to release adenosine. And later in the day, as it gets dimmer and dimmer in light, and most people aren't doing that, right? We have to do that consciously, the melatonin. So the adenosine and the melatonin together are what brings on sleepiness. It's not just because we've had a long day and we're tired, right? Sleepiness and tired are not the same thing. So sleep hygiene is super important. I'm going to put a link in the chat box for a website where you can get a lot of different sleep hygiene techniques. It's the Sleep Foundation. Sleep science is only about maybe 25, 30 years old. It's a fairly new science. And so there's a lot we don't know. We know a lot more now, but there's still a lot we don't know. And most people just think you go to sleep because you're tired, but we need to sleep. And when we sleep, our body and our brain are going through all this repair and restoration. It's quite amazing what's happening. Some people are saying that they use different tracking devices. So that's cool. I've heard about those. I don't use it myself, but I've heard people find them really helpful. So sleep hygiene, definitely check out that web link to get more information about sleep hygiene. I want to just briefly touch on what we're going to be talking about during the next webinar. So the next webinar is going to be on May 19th, which I believe is also a Thursday, also starting at 3 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to be talking about cultivating mental fitness. Right. So what I'm going to be sharing with you at that time is what are considered the 4 pillars of mental fitness. I'm going to move the slides because I think there's one of those little square things you can click on. Oh no, I still need that slide. I'll put you to that other slide, but Q put in that that survey. So it's like a linked, it's a little box thing that goes to that. I forget what those things are called. I don't use them, sorry. So the 4 pillars of mental fitness are emotional, social, financial, and physical, right? Those components of our lives. Though the emotional includes self-acceptance, self-esteem, resilience, the ability to manage strong emotions. The social component of mental fitness deals with how important friends are to our life because of the companionship, the support, the enrichment that they bring to our lives. There's also the financial aspect of the mental fitness, which has to do with wellness around financial matters, right? So making sure that we have enough money, enough disposable income in order to not feel like we're really stressed out about money. But also at the same time, being able to handle any financial setbacks that we might have, working towards our financial goals, right? For those of us who have financial goals. And then the physical component or pillar of mental fitness has to do with our physical aspect of our life. So mental and physical fitness are both health related, they're intertwined, right? And so you can improve your mental health and your physical health at the exact same time by following a healthy diet, by getting regular exercise, by doing stress management, and definitely getting enough sleep. That is for sure. The sleep is really important. We can also, right, through this physical aspect of mental fitness, if we're taking care of our bodies, we're also going to be able to minimize our risk or reduce our risk of developing chronic illnesses such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease, anxiety, and depression. So that's what we'll be talking about next time. We'll be going to be talking about cultivating mental fitness and also focusing on those 4 pillars of mental fitness. Let's see. So I'm seeing people are asking about things. Mental fitness webinar. So I think Q has responded. All the sessions are being recorded. And last week's session, there you go. You have the link for that. Thank you so much, Q. Here again is that mysterious little box that people put their little cameras on. Somebody will tell me what it's called, I'm sure. And it'll take you to the survey, but Q also put the link in there. Thank you. QR code. Nifty little things for sure. QR codes. So we are, oh, thanks, Q. So Q also reposted the survey. So please do share your feedback. Mysterious little boxes, right? Love it. Thanks. Don't encourage me. Don't do it. All right. So, well, I want to say thank you to everybody because although we didn't have the breakout sessions, which worked perfectly for some of you, we will do that next time. So maybe I'll figure out how to do it in a way that some people can go into breakout rooms and some can't. We'll see. I'll see if that's possible. We'll have to figure out how. I'll talk to Q about that. But I want to say thank you. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for all of the strategies that you shared with everybody, right? Because everybody else was able to see that. And so the things that you find helpful, the tools and strategies that you use, now other people have access to those, right? The breathing and the journaling and the taking walks and reading and taking pauses and all those great things that people were talking about, right? So please just keep doing more of that. Keep striving to build your emotional resilience and keep being awesome. I will see you in a couple weeks. Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure. You're very welcome. I'm seeing the nice comments. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.